Yo, what's good everyone? Thank you for tuning in to today's video. As you can tell by the title, today we are going to be recapping Yeezy Day, and in this video I will show you guys my two latest Yeezy pickups. Now before we dive in, I want to let you guys know that one of the two pairs will be getting more of a review than the other one, and that will start to become apparent as we actually move throughout the video itself. So instead of doing two separate videos, I decided to just smash them into one, and hopefully you guys will stick around for the whole thing. For those of you that don't really want to do that, I will try and leave some timestamps in my description area below in case you want to skip to any specific part of the video. But just to kind of entice you to stick around, I do have a really exciting guest that I'm really excited to share with you guys, and I can't believe that we actually have him for this video. So do make sure you are staying locked in because you honestly don't want to miss it. So now we've got all those formalities out of the way, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. So just as a quick recap before we actually do take a look at my two pickups from Yeezy Day, for anybody that's watching this video that doesn't already know, Yeezy Day did take place in the UK on the 3rd of August. Now Yeezy Day pretty much was just an entire day of restocks, and for me it was some of, if not the best Yeezy releases of all time, including the likes of the Wave Runners, the Breads, the Statics, the Zebras, and a whole host of just incredible restocks and incredible releases. For obvious reasons, not everybody that went for certain releases were able to actually get everything, and that's pretty much to be expected. There was some issues with it and it wasn't completely flawless. You know, there was going to be some teething issues. If this is going to be the building blocks for future Yeezy Days, I'm honestly incredibly excited of what's to come. In my personal opinion, I do think it would be pretty difficult to actually top how successful it actually was. And as we've all seen from the likes of Sneakers Day that followed, that was an absolute incredible and Yeezy Day just completely showed Nike up. Kanye, Adidas outdid themselves, and for me, you know, I did pick up two shoes, so I'm a little bit biased towards it in general, but even if I only picked up one or none, it was still a great day because at least you had the opportunity to try it and at least go for the things you wanted, and there's really not anything more you can actually do for a day like that. So they did it on the Confirmed app, they had splash pages, and pretty much everyone I spoke to managed to hit at least something and didn't walk away empty-handed. Now, there are certain people that only went for certain releases that did walk away empty-handed, but if you are limiting yourself to only the special releases like the Zebras, like the Breads, like the Wave Runners, you're kind of decreasing your overall chance of copying anything. Now, I managed to hit my grails on this day, so I'm super excited to actually be getting into this video. So with all that waffling aside, if we now just go ahead and take a look at the first pair of shoes. So just like we always do, we'll be starting out with the boxes before moving on to the shoes. Now, as you can see, we just get that pretty bog standard Yeezy cardboard box. Now, across the top, we do have that 700 branding, as you will be able to see. And then if we do just take a quick look at the label, which reads Yeezy Boost 700, and this is a UK 9.5, which is a personal size for me. Now, I'm not even going to try and read out that colorway. I'm just going to show you guys, as you will hopefully be able to see if the camera focuses. Hopefully it will. Now, just like all other Yeezy cardboard boxes, this is a pull-out drawer, and pretty much nothing really to see inside, just the invoice and the tissue paper. Now, for this, I did also already take the shoes out, and any of you eagle-eyed viewers that have tuned into my last couple of videos, you may already know what this shoe is, and if you do also follow me on Instagram, you definitely already know what this is. So, with all that said and done, if we now just go ahead and take a look at the shoes. Oh, that's the stuff. So without any further ado, here we have the Yeezy 700 V1 Wave Runner. Get a good look at it. This is one of my major grails, and this year we are just ticking off grails incredibly quickly. I feel so alive! Now, for me, this year, I kind of went for quality over quantity, whereas last year, I went for quantity over quality. And, you know, having sold an incredible amount of shoes from my collection, I've completely revamped it, and I'm only really going for shoes that I either have been chasing for years or have to have. You know, I'm trying to be as selective as I can be, but as soon as I knew these were restocking, I was doing everything I possibly could do to get this shoe for my own personal collection. I also kind of had a little bit of an issue with this release as well. Now, when this dropped, you had like, I believe, an hour and a half to 2 hours to enter the raffle itself. So I entered the raffle like everybody does, but initially, because of how many people were actually entering, it wouldn't even let me enter, and I was completely just stressed beyond belief. Eventually, I did manage to get my raffle entry in. When it actually came to the raffle draw, you know, they get the little like draw thing that runs across the screen, and mine just wasn't moving, and I was getting just more and more angry the longer it was taking. And then I went over to Instagram and I started to see people actually posting up their wins. And, you know, one of my fellow hosts on the SWO podcast, Pat, he posted his win. And at that point, I just completely lost my mind. I figured I took my L. I'm not happy about it. So I took to my Instagram story and I pretty much said F you to Adidas and to Kanye. And within 30 seconds of me posting that story, believe it or not, I got my W. So I actually took that story down pretty much straight away. I didn't want anyone to see it. Didn't really want Adidas to see it if, you know, the monitors were checking and whatever and take away my win. But I got it. And I'm just super excited to have this shoe in my collection. So I'm not actually going to be going through like a whole review of this shoe. I feel like everybody that's tuned into this video already knows what this is. And anybody that knows anything about sneakers will recognize this shoe. It is, for me at least, the most iconic shoe to have released in the last 5 years. And even to this day, it is still one of the most futuristic looking shoes I've ever actually seen. Now, thanks to the SWO podcast, which is something I'm part of on a weekly basis for anyone that doesn't already know, we actually had the opportunity to speak to the designer of this shoe, Stephen Smith. Even as I'm saying it now to you guys on camera, I still can't believe that I have actually been in a position to actually speak to one of the most influential and one of the most futuristic designers of all time. Now, Steve has actually worked for the likes of New Balance, Nike, Adidas, and Yeezy. And actually hearing his story about the Wave Runner and how he actually managed to even get that deal with Yeezy is still mind-blowing. So I really wanted to share a clip with you guys so you guys can get that early look at an upcoming podcast, because you definitely do not want to miss this. If you are a designer, a sneakerhead, a sneaker enthusiast, if you love the Wave Runner, this is by far the most important podcast I've ever been a part of. So I'm just going to quickly roll the clip so you guys can see a little bit about how this shoe actually came to be.
They can't do wrong. Like, you get people that turn around about the Wave Runner, which, let's be honest, yeah, this is true. Everyone turned around and was like, oh, people own them, people love them. And it's not just resellers, people just love the look of them. And now you get companies like ACS who are trying to copy it, who are literally making a like for like near enough, but it's more plasticky looking, but they're making a like for like of original idea.
Yeah, I mean, that was to me, that's one of the most comfortable shoes I've ever worked on. And it was a complete paradigm shift for the industry in that everything was this Roshi running, simple, Nike driven, cost reduction driven model of no sewing, minimal pieces, just almost to the point of being generic. And when Kanye asked me to start drawing that thing, I'm like, what is he asking me to do? Like, that's not where it's headed. And basically what we did is, you know, we tripped everybody else, stuck our foot out in front of them. They all fell down and we ran ahead of them and came out with this thing nobody else was doing, and shifted the entire market. Yeah, it was funny when we were working on it. I'm like, what is he asking me to do? You know, and I took a couple sketches, we blended them, we hybridized them, we sent them back and forth over email, because I was up here and he was down in California, and we did everything remote for 48 hours straight, and out of it came this thing. And the thing that's cool about it, you know, one of my fortes has always been everywhere you draw the side view of the shoe. And to me, when I worked with the pattern guys, the magic happened when it went from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. You could see where you wrapped a piece around the heel on the 2-dimensional sketch. But then when it came together and you turned it around and you saw like a whole new dimension or dynamic of what was happening with that pattern as it was interpreted into 3D that you didn't even visualize. And so it kind of became this obsession of mine that no matter what angle you looked at it, it looked right. It was balanced. It was finished. There's no line that didn't make any sense. And you can see a lot of other companies' product where you turn it around, like, what the hell's that? You know, or it's too front heavy in the design, and it's too back heavy in the design. It's like the stuff that I've worked on. That's always something strive for is no matter what angle you look at it, it looks good and right. And the Wave Runner was kind of an embodiment of that philosophy. But after he, it all kind of made sense when it came out and it shifted the market. It was disruptive, and I've been known as a disruptor, and for good or for bad. But after he was like, you know what I made you do? I'm like, what's that? He goes, I made you design your New Balance running shoes as if you still work there 30 years later. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Look at it. And the funny thing about that particular shoe is you can look at it and like, is it from the 80s? Is it from the 90s? Is it from the 2000s? When is it from? And it's one of those, it's like a lot of the product that I've had a hand in. You look at it and of course it is. It's all of those. It's none of those. It's from now, or is it from yesterday or tomorrow? You don't know. That's what makes these iconic product, is that you can't pin it to a particular date, even though it was released on a particular date.
Just mind-blowing. Honestly, it was such an incredible honor to speak to Steve about this shoe, and even though I pretty much didn't say that much throughout the interview, I just felt like I was in a position where if there's ever a time to just shut up and listen, then that time was then. Hearing everything he had to say about his entire sneaker history and how he has influenced sneakers in general, it was just an incredible honor, and I'm so happy to have been part of that podcast. So Steve, if you ever do see this, and I find that highly unlikely, but if you ever do, it was an absolutely incredible honor to have you on our podcast. And for anybody that's watching this video that does want to hear the full podcast either on Spotify or Apple Music, it should be out in the next couple of weeks, and we will also have the visuals on YouTube shortly as well. So do make sure you are subscribed to the SWO podcast on YouTube. Make sure you are following us on all social media. We've already had some incredible guests like Jumperman Chris, Life of a Broski. We've also got Steve Smith, which is just absolutely incredible, and we're only just starting out, so things are going to keep getting better. So if you support me, please support the SWO podcast as well, because honestly, you won't be disappointed. Our guests are just getting better and better every single week. So I will leave a link in my description if you do want to go ahead and check us out.
Lovely jubbly, so everyone's a winner, right?
But moving on to the next pickup that we actually did for Yeezy Day, we also have another 700, as you can see across the top. So once again, pretty standard Yeezy cardboard box, 700 branding across the front. If we then just take a quick look at the label, which reads Yeezy 700 V3, and once again, I'm not going to read out the size label or, the colorway, I should say. So I'll just show you that on camera. Hopefully this will focus for you once again. Now, this is a shoe that I haven't even taken out of the box. I really wanted to save this for seeing it for the very first time with you guys on camera. So if we just pull out the pull-out drawer, as you can see, shoes are exactly in the same way they would be when they actually left the factory. Peeling back the tissue paper. Alright. Interesting. Oh. That ain't it. So without any further ado, in hand we have the Yeezy 700 V3 in the Dark Glow colorway. Now you might be saying to yourself, Dark Glow? I'm pretty sure this goes by a different name. And to be honest, even though you are mistaken, I completely get why some people might actually mistake this for something else. Now, for anyone who's a big fan of the Yeezy 700 V3s, you'll probably recognize that this shoe is pretty much the exact same as the Alvea or Alvas or whatever the name is that actually released in 2020. Honestly, I have no idea how they decided to actually come up with a concept for this release, whether or not they was rushing or whatever the actual design thought was going into this shoe, because even though we're all pretty much sick of those earth-toned Yeezy releases, this is exactly the same, bar a few minor details. And when I say they're minor, they're incredibly minor. So the fact that they've pretty much brought out the exact same shoe, but a little bit different, is just mind-blowing to me. I have no idea why they did it. Now, this part of the video, we are just going to be doing a pretty brief review, because I'm kind of figuring that this video is already a little bit longer than I actually wanted it to be. So I'm just going to quickly run down the details of this shoe for anybody that's potentially thinking about picking this shoe up. So if we start with the uppers to begin with, now on the underlays, we do have this monofilament mesh material. Now, this does differ slightly from what you may have seen on the 350s, as that's more of a prime knit material. The major difference, for me at least, is just the overall texture to it. It's not as smooth, it's not as soft, and it doesn't feel as premium as prime knit. But with that said, it's really breathable, it's very stretchy, and in general, it's a pretty decent quality of material. Now, as you will be able to see, running right the way throughout the lateral side, and it is also on the medial side as well, we do actually have this stitched in grey accent, which personally I think is a really nice touch. Breaks up the upper really well and adds quite a decent contrast. And then encasing pretty much the entire upper of the shoe, we do actually have this TPU glow-in-the-dark exoskeleton. But from there, if we then just work our way back into the center of the shoe, now on the toe cap, we do have this black rubberized material, which actually makes up a good portion of the front of the shoe. If we then just work our way even further up into the center, we do have the black infinity laces. Now, I've had my say in the past to say that I don't actually like infinity laces, and that really hasn't changed for this video. But considering how it looks on this shoe, I do actually think it works pretty well, so I've actually got no complaints there. Now, when it comes to this shoe, you do actually get an additional set of laces as well. So if, like me, you're not really the biggest fan of infinity laces, you do actually get some rope laces as well. Now, for those that don't know, in order to actually swap the laces out for the regular laces, you actually need to cut these out. That might actually alter the overall resale price for this shoe as well, so that is definitely something you should bear in mind before actually deciding whether or not to destroy these laces and put in the new ones. I'm surprised they haven't come up with a fix to make it any easier, maybe just putting a clip on it, but I'm not working for Yeezy, but it kind of is what it is.
Alrighty then.
And then on the underlay, we do have this almost booty construction. This is something that I'm not a big fan of. It is very difficult to get on, even though I did actually go a full size up. But we'll get onto that, like I say, later on in the video. Now, also included on the actual tongue portion of the shoe, we do have some 3M accents, which I thought was a really nice touch. And then moving even further into the shoe, we do have that black insole with the Adidas Yeezy branding. If we then just work our way down to the midsole, we do have this primarily black EVA foam midsole. Unfortunately, this is an Ultra Boost, and it's not going to be as comfortable as a 350 or a 380. It's still pretty good, it's still pretty soft, but especially around the heel, I did actually think it was a little bit stiff and a little bit difficult, kind of like to get that feeling of like immediate comfort. It's not bad, there's definitely not an uncomfortable shoe, but I would definitely recommend that you do bear that in mind, that it's just not as comfortable as a standard Yeezy release. But from there, if we then just work our way onto the outsole, we do have that herringbone traction alongside those yellow EVA pods. Now, as I was mentioning earlier on in the video, in terms of the sizing for this shoe, I did actually have a pair of these previously, and I think I said I went true to size on that shoe. Now, I no longer have that shoe in my collection, and the reason for that, the sizing. Now, when I first got that shoe, I did find it really, really difficult to get on, but I did eventually manage to get it on, and I feel like that's why I led to the fact that I recommended going true to size. Since then, you know, and just kind of reflecting on that moment, going true to size would be a completely bad idea for this style of shoe. I went a full size up. It's not as difficult to get on, but it's still a little bit tricky because I do have quite wide feet. So if you're like me and you do have wide feet, I would recommend that you do go a full size up. If you are more on the narrower side or more of a skinny footer, then I would say that maybe going a half size up is probably going to be the best outcome for you. But like I always suggest, if there's any opportunity at all for you to actually try the shoe before buying, maybe if a friend has a pair or a family member, try the shoe before you do invest, because the size on this shoe is just a little bit weird. So like I say, if you are more of a narrow footer, go a half size up. If you are more of a wide footer, definitely do go at least a full size up. And I do think that that will be the best outcome for you. So unlike the Wave Runners, that's pretty much all we really need to cover on this shoe. Now, like I always do when it comes to my reviews, I'm going to give this shoe a rating. Now, because the fact that this shoe did actually pretty much release last year, and it's really no different, I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that I'm just going to give this a pretty reasonable 7 out of 10. It's nothing too exceptional, it's a pretty nice shoe, and the fact that you were able to get it so accessible for those that perhaps weren't able to get things like the Wave Runners, the Breads, or the Zebras, at least you didn't leave empty-handed. It is a very nice looking shoe, not the most comfortable, not necessarily the easiest shoe to match to most outfits, but I think a 7 out of 10 is pretty much a reasonable score for this shoe. But for me, nothing is going to outdo the Wave Runner. This is a straight 11 out of 10. This is by far my single favourite pickup from Yeezy ever in general, to be completely honest. This is the best Yeezy shoe I have ever managed to get my hands on. I want to give a massive shout out to the Adidas Confirmed app for finally taking me in from out of the cold and actually granting me the opportunity to actually buy this shoe. I think it's a little bit corny to thank retailers, but on this occasion, I'm going to give myself a pass because this is an absolute incredible grail for me. So I am honestly really gassed to have this shoe in my collection. Still have the tags on it, haven't worn it just yet, but this shoe will definitely be getting plenty of wear from me. So let me know what you guys think about my pickups, and also let me know in the comment section below what you guys managed to pick up as well. If you have stuck around to this point in the video, I do want to say a massive thank you. Please feel free to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, do make sure the bell notification is switched on so you never miss a video, and I hope to see you all again in the next one.